Okay, everyone. So welcome to today's episode of Reiki Radio. We are here with the beautiful Tonya Parker, who is also known as the Throat Chakra Shaman. Welcome.
Thank you, Yolanda. It's great to be here.
It's so wonderful to have you here. And I have to say, just off the top, I'm like, oh, I'm reconnecting with home, right? Because I'm from DC. So to have someone on the show from the DMV area, it's like very exciting to me. I wanted to point out and make sure everyone knows, just to begin, that you also host a beautiful podcast called Mind, Body, Soul Food. I love that, people are aware that there are other resources out there, so be sure to check out Tanya's podcast. But I wanted to know if you could share with us today, like different layers and aspects of your work, because it is so multifaceted and you have this beautiful message of inspiring people to do this their way. So first and foremost, what got you started on this path? How did you become the Throat Chakra Shaman and connected to energy work and all of these beautiful modalities that you practice?
That's a good question. And I probably tell the story differently every time. I'll say that it's a long way from my original plan when I went to college. I was a math major, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And then I didn't stay a math major long. And then I ended up as next it was a French major. And then I didn't stay there long and I ended up in sociology. And it was really a default because that was where I had the most credits at that point, and I wanted to graduate on time. So, I love people. I love learning about people and cultures and groups and things like that. And then I went to grad school and stayed in grad school for a while. And I became a counselor, a licensed professional counselor. And so I really got a chance to use one of my gifts, which is a gift of gab, and one of my gifts, which is listening and deep listening. And I stayed in the profession for 10 or so years, I guess. And I realized that it just wasn't providing what I wanted it to provide. I felt that there was something more. I felt limited in how I was seeing my clients. There were whole layers of life that they experienced that we didn't delve into.
Right.
We were limited by managed care and the number of sessions they said we could have. And I didn't know anything about transpersonal counseling, or not much. I mean, I hadn't delved into it. Now I have friends who incorporate all this wonderful holistic stuff into their practices. But back then, this was like the 80s and 90s. So I didn't have that direction. And so for my 30th birthday, some friends suggested I go and see their massage therapist. And so I saw the therapist and I was just enamored. It's like, oh my gosh, where has this been all my life? Right. So I decided I wanted my clients to feel like I felt when I went to get massage. I wanted clients who wanted to see me, who felt good when they were there. They were smiling. They were smiling when they left. They couldn't wait to come back.
Right.
And so what I realized as I went to massage school and I incorporated both practices together, and this is more of the retrospective lens, is that I was activating my throat chakra. I was really working with mine and working with others. I'm really looking at helping others to express themselves, express the truth of who they are, to release blockages to that. And so the counseling did that. The massage, I tend to get the sticky necks and shoulders. I have been doing that since 1999. And, you come in stiff-necked, frozen shoulder, what have you, I will work it out. And I'm grateful for that skill. And I began to learn more about the mind-body connection. And and how they really are connected, and looking at the chakras and the energy systems and things like that, and how releasing the blockages on one level can impact another level, and knowing that dis-ease truly doesn't usually just start in the physical realm.
It's can I say, just listening to what you've shared so far, I think even your work and your experience, it highlights how for so long we have been only focused on the mind. And it's really interesting hearing you say this, because I have known and worked with many people who are therapists and counselors, and a lot of them now are feeling restricted in the work. And it's interesting that this seems to be opening up, where there is more of this realization of that mind body energy connectivity, and looking at the whole picture of who and what we are.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about that too, because when we spoke before, you did mention that you spent many years working in a hospital, and it was in that setting that you even started practicing Reiki and aromatherapy. So what was going on for you at that space that would even transition you into that type of work?
Well, that's a good question. By this time, I had left the counseling profession. I had gone into prevention work for a few years. I left that, and I became a corporate trainer. I realized that yes, I am a healer, but I also am a gifted teacher, and I love to teach. And there's a connection. There's healing through my teaching, and there's teaching through my healing. And so I was a corporate trainer. I loved my work. I loved my, everyone I worked with, but I realized I'm in this allopathic healthcare system. And there was just this disconnect that was there after a while, because, when you walk into a space where everything is problem focused, looking at pathology, that wasn't a place, even in my counseling training, that didn't feel good to me, to automatically go to a diagnosis. It became rote after a while. We had to do it, but I didn't want to look in those terms, use that lens. And so just being in that setting, that's how it was. So the more I was introduced to Reiki by someone I met at a party, and it really appealed to me. And I didn't know if the Reiki was because, ooh, she's cute and I'm getting tingly, or wait, something's happening to my knees right now, for real, and I got up and I was able to walk, and it's like, oh, I'm not walking with a limp. I'm feeling pretty good. So when my boss, who was also into the woo-woo, she suggested that we get Reiki training together. And I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, let's do that. And so we signed up, and she didn't show up, but I did. And so the rest really is history in terms of the Reiki. That was back in 2005 when I became attuned. And I really, I enjoyed the healing modality. I enjoyed being able to body scan and really tune into the body and listen to it and learn what it was saying, because like with many of us in Reiki, if we had not before, our intuitive senses open up when we go through the attunements, and the more we connect in with that energy. And so that was giving me even more information when I worked with people within their body and whatnot. And so I also went in and got aromatherapy training, realized I had an affinity for plants in that way. And so I just started expressing my more authentic self. And when I left the hospital in 2007, I fully expected to get another job at some point, but I could not get a job. Everything was like a closed door, and it kind of forced me to put out my shingle full time, which I had not planned to do. I mean, this was a sideline type income, maybe something for retirement, a nice skill I could trade with people, or, all of that good stuff. But no, Spirit had another plan. Spirit was just laughing. And so I kind of went through the back door into, here I am, a holistic health professional, a holistic healer, teacher, and writer.
Well,
And
can
so
I,
that's what
you
we're
know,
doing.
it's so interesting now, again, speaking with you again, because when we first spoke, and one of the things I knew would highlight in this conversation with you is you share how important it is for you to help people connect with themselves. Understanding the connection to spirit helps us to understand ourselves, but
Yes.
also knowing that there are layers to this, like stepping into becoming a healer or being a healer, and that you can do it your way. I think that's what I loved about your message so much, is like, you know what, for people to understand they can do it their way. But listening to the path you took, right? Who would have imagined you, right? Okay, so you are a counselor and you are very connected with behaviors and the mind. So it's like, without even knowing, you were already in training for this work that you were moving towards, right? And then you move into all of these other things. You become very focused on connecting to the body. And I think it's so interesting because a lot of times people look at their path as like, am I on the wrong path? This is not where I'm supposed to be, not recognizing how those dots connect and create this picture of what you're stepping into. So I wanted to ask you about that, because you do have so much rich experience and knowledge and information in the work you provide. How did that work for you? Like, did you already start bringing in, making these connections, or was it something that developed in your practice where it was like, oh my goodness, I'm using all of this that I've experienced over the years?
That's a great question, Yolanda. I don't know if I was always conscious. I think I was really floundering for a bit and trying to find my way. And I remember a conversation I had with a mentor, friend, my shamanic studies teacher, and he knew I was struggling with this thought of being a massage therapist after going to college, going to grad school, getting 3 different degrees, multiple certifications, and I'm doing this manual labor,
Right.
And so, and he said something to me that really, really struck me, and it stays with me. He says, don't you realize it does not matter what modality you use, you are the healing. And I was like, wow. And what I started to realize from feedback that I got from people, all I had to do is walk in a room and healing would take place. I remember the director of nursing, the vice president of nursing at the hospital, said to me, she says, I don't know you very well, and I don't know what it is about you, but when you're in the room, I feel a sense of peace and calm, and I'm just grateful for that. And it struck me, and I've gotten feedback like that before, and I realized that, as people have their different modalities, and I think Reiki has been the one for me where I've really, really connected in with spirit, connected in with the energy, with the oneness. And I realized that Reiki isn't something I do. It is who I am.
Right.
I live the Reiki. And so I think that was a big distinction for me, because before it was this modality, and it's like, what? I don't feel like a master. I've gotten the master's level, but I can't teach anybody this. And I went for years, 5 years, saying, no, 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 no. I was asked by, I know, at least 20 people to attune them. I was like, no, I don't do that. That's not me. I incorporated in my massage work maybe. And I don't think I even was doing any Reiki sessions, but it felt haphazard in some ways, but then different things I would incorporate to bring in income would happen. So one of my housemates asked me back in 2007, I believe it was, end of 2006 or 2007. She says, would you consider cooking for our faculty? And the faculty she was talking about was the Inner Visions Institute for Spiritual Development, run by Ayan Van Zandt.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, I don't do that professionally. I make food for hospitality at church, but she'd see me cooking at home. She'd see what I'd take to hospitality. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And so for 3 years, I cooked for Ayamla and her faculty each month for the full weekend. And that started my catering. And I started doing personal chef work. And then after some years, I stopped. And I realized that periodically people would reach out to me and say, hey, I'm experiencing multiple myeloma. I have Lou Gehrig's disease, or what have you. Can you make food for me? And so I would help people with special concerns or issues. And that became a huge component for me because I realized food is powerful alchemy. That's, along with the essential essences, that's another of nature's gifts that I've been mastering. And today I was thinking, wow, I was doing a lunch and learn where I was literally doing the learning. I was doing a workshop talking about food for mood, and I had made the lunch. And I realized, oh my God, I got this gig all month doing this with this company. I got this because someone had come to one of my winter witch suppers, and I had made butternut squash and apple soup that she loved. And Spirit told her to reach out to me and to see if I could help with their wellness initiative. And it became so much more than me making soup for them. And I got a retreat chef catering gig because of a mistake I made making a pot of greens, where I accidentally put too much red pepper flakes in the pot of greens, and I was fishing them out, and it's like, oh my God, these are going to be too spicy. And they were the bomb greens, and everybody loved them. And one of my friends who was there, he remembered it. And a couple of months later, he said, hey, I know of a group who's looking for a retreat chef for 2 weeks in Virginia Beach. Are you available to do it? And I'm like, can I do this? I haven't really done a lot of cooking in a while for other people. It had been years since I had worked for Intervisions. I stopped that in 2009. And so I said, okay, I can do this. And so I have continued to do some retreat chef support, do a soup of the month club. My food has been one of my forms of healing.
Okay, wait. Wait, you saying that, there's so many questions that popped into mind, but there's 3 I have to say with what you shared. One, I love hearing your story. I think it highlights what so many people struggle with in this, but you seem to, and I'm sure you had, your challenges, but listening to you, it sounds like you did it with such grace. And that's where we don't know how we're being led or why. A lot of times, doors close and we're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And then there's these opportunities that appear, and a lot of us ignore them because they don't make sense.
Right.
But you just followed, and all these new doors kept opening, these new experiences. But even more than that, it's like you started to reveal all of the layers of your healing. Like it wasn't just this, I think there is an idea of what a healer looks like or is supposed to be, but here you are revealing all of these layers and different aspects of your embodiment of healing, which is great. The other thing, food for mood, that is an amazing title. What? That's so good. But you also mentioned your witch luncheon. So I do want to ask you more about the retreats that you do, because they're it's so interesting. But can you share with people the acronym, which, how you use that, and what that even means, and what people experience in these type of gatherings with you?
Thank you for asking. So I came up with that. You know what? I say but in all oneness, it's Spirit working through me. Came up with this acronym for witch. And it stands for a woman in tune with conscious healing. And so when I was writing my book, Diary of a Witch's Daughter, that is what came forth because, here's this teenage girl who's struggling with her mom and how people perceive her mom, who really is a holistic healer. And she's similar to me and many friends of mine, etc. And, but people look at her as woo-woo, crunchy granola, different. And so they just like to call her a witch. And yeah, she's kick butt. She's an alchemist. She knows how to wield magic in that way. And it's become such a dirty word, something that has been shunned. And so I wanted to own the word, to, empower the word, and to say, yes, I am a witch. I don't ride on a broomstick. I don't cackle, and I usually don't have any warts. But I use my powers for good, yes. And I can alchemize the heck out of some food and wonderful blends. And with my healing touch, my little hot mitts, as my clients like to call my hands, and I can see transformation take place through spirit working through me. And so the Winter Witch Supper series was another amazing inspiration that came through spirit that I resisted for a while. And then it's like, okay, let's do it. So I took the cold months and I said, here's an opportunity for me to cook, because I love to cook.
Right.
And I love making soups. It's my favorite thing to make, and people love my soups. And I had ended my Soup of the Month club, but I wanted to offer something for the community. I also love being in community with women. Mm-hmm. And so here was an opportunity to build community with like-minded, light-minded women, to feed them yummy, nutritious foods, and to highlight someone else who's considered a witch, a woman in tune with conscious healing, and have her to come and present the program. Because there are times when I love being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I can be a ham. I don't mind being on the radio, hey, on a podcast, but I love sometimes just letting others. And that's what my podcast is about. Much like yours, you're highlighting someone else and what they offer to the community at large. And so, we had Ife Taya White out of the Sea Islands of South Carolina. She was home visiting and she said, yes, I'll do it. I'll start you off. And so we looked at balancing our masculine and feminine energies.
Nice.
And all of these were experiential. Next, we had Mama Almasi Wilcox, whom I knew from Intervisions Institute. She had just retired from their faculty. And Mama Almasi talked about trauma intention tapping. And that was powerful to learn that tool. And then I had my friend Julie Magram, my trade partner for acupuncture, actually, and she looked at the mind-body connection and taught us different easy techniques to help to tie those together. And then my partner, Reverend Nem Bay, she came forth and she did, it was third eye work, working with the third eye. And so that was pretty juicy too. So it was lots of fun. And I will repeat it again later in the year. I decided, let me expand this. It won't be winter. We'll do fall and winter. People like soups then, So.
Yes. Well, the whole time you're sharing this, I'm thinking, oh, when I go to visit my family, I am coming for your soup, whether it's a workshop.
Okay. You're invited. The door is open.
Oh, please. No, truly. And for anyone else interested, because as you're saying this, I'm like, this is something I would absolutely love to be a part of. They can obviously learn more on your website, which we'll share and will also be in the show links. But please keep me up to date with the dates. So, because, coming to see you, get that food, see my family, win-win.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you also, now that we're talking about the different offerings you have, I know that, you've been referred to and you do enjoy, it's like you're the healer's healer and helping people to really reveal their own connection to source and their connection to their healing ability. I just wanted to ask you, what even makes that so important to you? And what is it that you really do hope people know or understand about themselves?
Those are good questions. I really desire to live my passion. I want to serve. And I was scared to say that before because I thought I would have to give up something or lose a part of myself. But I find that when I serve, I have fun and it's a win-win for everyone. I am having a good time. And I am helping people expand and grow and see more in themselves than they ever envisioned. When I was doing a shamanic group back in 2007, I was part of this beautiful community. And one of the shamanic journeys that we took had us to go, and on the journey, we were to learn our shamanic name. And so back at that time, there were periods of time where I didn't have as much confidence. And I sometimes questioned what I heard. Was it truly from spirit? Was I making stuff up? Because, if I was making stuff up, it was some pretty darn good stuff.
Right.
So what I heard was my shamanic name was Iris. And I'm like, Iris? Okay. And everybody had these really neat names, like Slayer of the Dragon, or, that wasn't really a name, but and I had Iris, a
Right.
flower name. And so what our facilitator told me is look and listen for how that's connected to you. So I looked at Iris, I was doing a Google search, I was thinking Fleur-de-lis, all these connections. And then bingo, I came across it. The goddess who rode the rainbow from heaven to earth.
Wow.
And it really tied in with the shamanic work because we're working in the physical realm, we're working in the non-physical realm. We're making that connection with spirit and with the earthly things. And so I am able to harness that ability to alchemize what I desire in my life. And it's important for me to help others too, really expressing their heart. What is it that they desire in life and truly want to be? What is it they truly want to express? Whether it's something they want to say, something they want to do. Do they feel stuck in this office job that they have or in this relationship that they don't feel fed or loved or cared for in? So I just show up as the healing, however I can support. And so that it's really important for me because I do believe I've been a student of A Course in Miracles, and I believe that when I'm healed, I'm not healed alone. So my healing is your healing, and your healing is someone else's healing, and their healing is my healing. So I am very invested in everybody showing up as their best self. There's no competition. There's room at the table for all of us. I'm very open-handed with other healers and supporting them and referring to them, lifting them up and partnering with them because I love collaborating.
Yes.
And so, as Jessica Rabbit would say, I'm just drawn that way.
I love it. Yes. I love that. So there's two things that come up with that. One, so in addition to the retreats that you facilitate, and I want to ask you about the ones coming up. You also do one-on-one work with people that are working through their layers or healers that are trying to go deeper into their practice and embodiment. They can work with you one-on-one too.
Almost definitely. I offer sacred healing sessions, and that really encompasses a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. So for some people, they're looking for a massage therapist, and that's what they come to get. I'll say they come to get because they may leave with a little something else, and then others may want just a Reiki session. Some may want cord cutting or chakra balancing. Some may feel like there's something that needs to be released, or they feel stuck in their life, or they're not expressing themselves fully. And so some just don't know. They'll say, so-and-so said, I need to see you. And they get sent to me and they figure it out why they're there. And so between that and the oils, and we may do breath work and chanting and meditation, and spirit is speaking, so intuitive messages and all of that.
Well, it's actually, listening to that, it blends into the second question I had for you, because it's beautiful that it sounds like you have, ingested these different practices and, worked through your different layers using these different tools, and then you've come into your own way. And a lot of people struggle with, like, say, for example, they start with Reiki, and then that curiosity starts to open up, right? And you start feeling called to other things. But a lot of people doubt it or think like, no, because I haven't perfected this one thing yet, not understanding it's a constant unlayering. So I wanted to ask you, how, was that process for you? And what does that look like and feel like for you to bring in all of these elements and make this beautiful, offering that's just yours, uniquely you?
How do I do it? I can't say it was haphazard. I can't say it was random. I know spirit is working, so it's always being open to spirit. And my early morning time is just when I feel so connected, and I receive these amazing downloads. And some of them I write them out, I type them up, and it can be years later and I find them. And so that has been the case. I did a self-care Saturday series where I did a workshop each month. I think that was for the year 2015, 2016. I had done that. I think I got that download in 2009 or 10, and I had saved it in my computer. And I come across these things, and some I have absolutely no memory, as it happens with spirit's work,
Right.
So it's just, finding them, hearing them. Is this for me? Is this for someone else? Because sometimes it is for someone else. It's not for me to do. And then I love words. I love language. I'm a writer as well. So I have to label things. I have to make a sense of things. And so that's why I didn't feel comfortable saying I am a massage therapist or I do massage. It's like I do more than massage. But, in today's society, you say that and people start to wink at you. And
Right.
it's like, no, it's not that kind of party, honey, So it's like, what is it? And what I do feels so sacred to me. And I really work hard to create a sacred space for the healing. So there it became, sacred healing session.
It seems like all I keep thinking or hearing in the background while you're saying this is trust. Like how much it must have taken so much trust for you to just continue to be open, right? I mean, it seemed like you're just open and you keep allowing, opening and allowing and trusting, even when you don't know what the outcome will be. And that's a beautiful thing. And I'm sure just, again, hearing your story will inspire people to recognize those opportunities and inklings and callings and stirrings that come up for them that they may be in resistance to. Maybe it will support people in considering being a little more open about it and, seeing where it goes. But I wanted to ask you too about the retreats that you hold, because I know you're going to Sedona in August and then Dominican Republic in 2020. So what are these retreats about? Because I saw there was food and connection to nature. What are you doing?
Oh, yeah, we do lots of good stuff. Once again, Yolanda, I tell you, sometimes I come up with this stuff, I'm thinking, oh, this is a wonderful opportunity for me to cook, and have a good time. I really think part of the retreat stuff, how it's evolved from a day retreat, which I started in 2014 doing that, and extended workshops. There's a part of I'm very communal. And that's how I'm drawn. And I want to live communally, kind of like an ashram, but I want to create it in my kind of way with
Right.
other like-minded people and everything. And what I find is with retreats, that is an opportunity to live in community for a specific period of time. And so my partner and I came up with this term, sacred sojourn. And so, it's a short stay, but during that stay, we are very intentional about providing an environment, providing activities, rituals, food, tours, personal healing to help people to connect deeper to themselves, to source, and whoever else is within the community. We want to leave the land better than we found it. So we do healing there of the land. So in Dominican Republic, it certainly has its past. And so we made sure that, okay, we are sending healing and love to the African ancestors there, whose a lot of the history has been lost. It's not really honored or attended to. And to the Taino Indians, the indigenous there, and to, the Haitians who've come over, and, the current Dominicans, whoever is there, we are sending healing to the land. We are doing our healing on the land. And so it's transformative. If you're sensitive to energy, you can pick up the shifts. So it's not as if we're just going and we're touring and, we're doing some fun stuff. Sedona, we've been doing for 3 years. And oh my God, the vortex energy is so palpable. It's so powerful. So to do healing in that area, it like, oh my gosh, it has you spinning like the vortex.
Yes.
And this last trip that we took last year, it was like it was really hard to ground after that and to connect back into this world. I really felt like I was in some other realm and sleepwalking for a bit. And I finally connect back in and then go to Dominican Republic in January. But yeah, it's really amazing. And we plan certain activities and certain rituals, but we also have to see who's there and what they bring to the table. And what we do is we practice dana. So everyone gives back to the community in some way. So it may be that someone says, okay, I am going to be the one to empty the dishwasher every morning. Or someone is going to maintain our altar and feed the ancestors. Someone may say, okay, I'm going to teach a yoga class, or I'm going to teach Qigong or sacred dance. Or someone this year she's going to do a candle magic workshop for us. So everyone gives back something.
Yeah.
And I love that because, I love the whole dance of generosity and reciprocity. That's really important to me.
Well, it's again, listening to you, it highlights a few things that is so beautiful. One, that you even make the space to have reverence for these places that you're going into, because I think we go into these different, we walk around life, quite frankly, a lot of times like mindlessly and not really having like a respect for the different environments we're going into and how we influence these environments as much as they can influence us. So the fact that you would intentionally take time to provide healing, to leave, any imprint of it feels like an exchange of gratitude, like going to a space and saying thank you for being available as space for us to occupy, and here's our thanks back to you. But also when you're talking about how communal, right? I think that is so powerful as well, because it's enough, and we know doing this work just to connect to ourselves and what that stirs up. But a lot of us forget how much we need to feel communal. So even though these retreats may last a weekend or however long they are, I think for a lot of us, we just need that spark again, to remember how connected we are to each other and to nature. So that sounds amazing. And the retreats, all of this is on your website as well, where people can learn more about what you do in that arena?
Yes, yes. I have a women's weekend retreat with my healing sister, Robin Bell. And that's here in the DMV area, out towards the mountains, closer to West Virginia. And that is June 21st through 23rd. That is a weekend. That's about sold out, though, but we have Saturday only options. We have a couple more spaces for the Sedona retreat. That's week long, August 23rd through 30th. And then we haven't gotten our plans out yet for DR in January of 2020. But definitely we're opening to doing more. I just can't clone myself right now. But, it's great partnering with my partner, Reverend Nim, with the Sacred Sojourns trips and offering that. And also sometimes bringing in a guest host as well. So this year, my friend, Reverend Dr. Anthony Farmer, who's my healer, shamanic teacher, mentor that I mentioned earlier. Actually, I may not have said his name, but he will be a guest host in Sedona with us. So it's chock full of, it's amazing. And, we build in tours. We've gone hot air balloon riding. We've gone on the Jeep tours. We take a day tour to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Eat yummy food because sometimes we go out, sometimes we're doing the cooking. We do provide some of the meals. So
well, I wanted to make sure to ask you about this too before you go, because another thing a lot of people do look for are really good, informative podcasts that can feed their soul as well. And I mentioned it in the beginning, but I would love if you could give us some more insight around the podcast you have, Mind, Body, Soul Food, which is an amazing name. But what is that podcast really about? Who's it for? And what do you all talk about?
That's a good question. Gosh, the podcast started in 2010, and it was one of those taking a leap of faith. I was writing for a publisher and for an online magazine, and they started a series of podcasts and said, okay, any of you want to join? And I'm like, can I do this? I don't know. Sure, let me do this. And I didn't know what I was getting into. And apparently I was a natural, and I have been doing it since then. We give voice to the vision of amazing light workers and healers. And I mean, it's to go with the metaphor, because I told you I love words. I love writing, so it's divinely delicious consciousness creating information that we provide. So we have holistic healers, light workers, metaphysicians. Some shows we have different folks providing readings. There are some shows where I have authors of different books. We just had a psychologist / spiritual coach, and she's chock full of too. Dr. Shawn Hicks, she was on this month, and she talked about healing generational wounds. My next show is having an Iya, a priest in the one of the Ifa traditions, and she is going to talk about connecting with and honoring our ancestors and how that can help support us in the work. So it really has been a lot. I had a man on years ago from London who was known for being responsible for getting over 1,000 women pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And well, actually, he was an acupuncturist, or he is an acupuncturist. And so, yeah, but he specializes in fertility issues, and he wrote this yummy book about, shifting the lives of all of these women and families. And so we have run the gamut from topics,
Wait, I love that you said it that way, because I think it highlights too how much we misunderstand when we don't go beneath the surface, right?
Right.
That was a good one. I wanted to, because I see we only have about 10 minutes left, and
Okay.
I have to ask you about this before we go. Last time we spoke, you said something that really struck me, and I was asking you about being the throat chakra shaman, and you said, I want my voice to invoke a response.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
just, elaborate a little more on that? I thought that was so beautiful. That's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you. And I think I remember saying that now too, because sometimes I have amnesia about whatever it is I say. I have to tell you, it was back in the 1990s, early 2000s. And, friends used to, for lack of other options, they were thinking, you know what, you should go into phone sex. You just have that type of voice. So thankfully, things have evolved not that there's anything wrong with that, but to the point where now people say your voice is so soothing and therapeutic. And it's one of my healing modalities. And so, I recorded a meditation CD. I did the audio recording of my children's book, Diary of a Witch's Daughter, and I do voiceover work. And so I want people to be able to hear my voice and to have a response, not one of, oh my God, it's like, chalk, the nails on the chalkboard. No, I want the opposite effect of that. And, you know, if that's the only way that they get to connect with me, then I would love to leave something with them. And if it provides some sort of soothing or some response, then I am grateful to be able to serve in that way. Sometimes when I can feel small and isolated, and am I making an impact, seeing like one person at a time, or maybe a small group, or just doing a small retreat or something like that, I realize my voice has been heard around the world. Through either the radio show or the meditation CD. And I am so grateful to be able to offer healing around the world through my voice. I got a reading years ago, and I always remember Reverend Jane, shout out to her. She says, your voice is to be used to heal around the world. And I really didn't know what she meant at the time. And so now I do, or I think I do, because there are limitless possibilities, and I'm going to keep following spirit. And if there's some opportunity that arises out there for me to use my voice more, then heck yeah, I'm going to do it.
And you do, people can also connect with you to present. You're also a presenter, and I'm sure from listening to the show, people would recognize you. Obviously would do that very well. I mean, it really does. It's interesting for people listening on the podcast. I'm sure they will hear the joy and the love that comes through you just expressing what it's like doing this work and what your experiences have been. But for people who watch this on YouTube, it's been really interesting seeing the way you animate yourself and you throw your head back and the smile on your face. I mean, it's like the joy literally does radiate through your voice, but also through just, again, like the way you animate yourself. So yeah, I think you're doing it.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Oh, listen, I am very thankful that we met. I'm thankful I found your podcast and that you agreed to come and share your work with all of us here in this community. I really do look forward to having your food and meeting you in person. That's
We're going
going
to work
to
it out.
happen. Yes, we're going to
work
work that out. But I want to make sure, of course, I said I will put it in the show notes, but can you let people know what are the best ways to contact you? Website, social media, where should we go?
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. The best way to contact me is via email, which is Tonya, Tonya, at mbsfood, as in mind, body, soul food.com. Tonya at mbsfood.com. They can also go to the website and, check out the things that I'm doing, and that's my reminder to update the website You know, when you're having fun doing the work you do, sometimes you forget the
Oh,
details.
I know.
Yeah, I have to alchemize my assistant.
Yes. Honey. Yeah. And ask if she has a sister for me. Like, seriously.
Okay, right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right, we're calling that in for both of us. Yes.
Yes. This has been such a beautiful conversation, and I am very thankful for this. And I just want to encourage everyone, if you enjoyed this conversation, Tonya has inspired you in any way, be sure to go to her website, mbsfood.com. You can email her, reach out to her, check out her podcast. And I know I saw you on iHeartRadio, and we can find you on Blog Talk Radio as well. Is that correct?
Yes, Blog Talk Radio, MBS Food, iHeartRadio, Spreaker. I can't remember what else. That's my
All the
partner takes
channels.
care of those details. I'm not great at that.
Oh, that's okay. I'll put the links in the show description, so it'll be easy for everyone. So thank you so much for being here, and we will see all of you next time.
Thank you.